Okay, here's the final part of our notes for cells. Some of this is a recap of things we've talked about already. Paying special attention to the reason why I'm recapping is because some of these questions fall on your test. These are not all the questions on the test, but there are very similar questions in many of these slides that are coming up. But there are other things you're supposed to focus on, like the microscope, fine and coarse adjustment, know why you use those. There's some other things on there that you need to know, being able to label a cell. But I'm going through some of the things that I think maybe we just need to plug in some more information to make sure you understand the questions. Smallest unit of life is a cell, and that allows cells to carry out functions, life functions. They're organized, they grow, they reproduce. They don't grow in size, they grow in numbers, and they use energy and respond to stimuli. Here's some different types of cells. Pay particular attention to the nerve cell. They have a body, and they have these extensions called dendrites. And this part here is an axon. So these dendrites and axons allow it to connect to the next nerve cell. Okay, we talked about stem cells quite some time ago, so I just want to recap. Notice I'm talking about it again, so it will be on your test. Stem cells are they differentiated or not? So when a cell is made, it is a stem cell. It comes directly from cell division, and it is not differentiated, which means it could be anything. This stem cell could turn into any of these options. So a stem cell is not differentiated because it could be anything. When it's differentiated, it means it can only be one thing. So when we look here, once the stem cell turns into a muscle cell, it can't go back to being a stem cell. So here is the most versatile stage where it could become any of these options it has arrows to. Specifically, here's one, the nerve cell. Again, this is our body, the axon. This is a terminal. These are the dendrites that extend and allow you to connect to the next neuron. This is the sheath that allows the impulses to travel faster because it's coded. Anyway, just remember the shape of this because it will come up again. So stem cells are undifferentiated because they are not specific. They're able to be undifferentiated because they could turn into anything. Specialized cells, once they become stem cells and turn into something else, then they are become differentiated because genes have been turning off and on. Cells are small because here's your undifferentiated, meaning can turn into anything cell. Here's once it does turn into something else, it cannot change back to that undifferentiated. So these are specialized cells. This isn't specialized yet. These are specialized. So once you're specialized, you can't go back. These are differentiated. Here's an example of a cancer cell. And the cancer cell, what happens is it gets an incorrect message, and that message tells it to replicate as quickly as possible. And once it does that, it grows out of control. And that's when you see tumors and things like that. It has been given the wrong message and doesn't know how to stop making them. So when we talk about cells that are small, they're small because they can absorb nutrients more efficiently. That means that they can take the energy that they've taken in the mitochondria, take the food energy, and convert it to energy the cell can use more efficiently because it's smaller. It would take less time to do that because the cell is small, like our house conversation. So here's talking about cell theory. Robert Hooke was the first person to look under a microscope, and he observed cork. The cork looked like little cells, like he thought of when he was part of the monastery. He said, hey, those look like the monk's cells. And so then he named them cells. And he was looking at plant cells. Here's a few other people that are involved in cell theory, and then we'll talk about the theory. During the 17th century, an inventor microscope examined the blood. At this point, nothing had been discovered. The cells hadn't been discovered. Well, then we saw Robert Hooke in 1665. Then you had Matthias Schleiden, who observed plants. And then you had Schwann, who discovered animals. And part of that neuron I showed you where it had that sheath, those sheaths contain Schwann cells. Pretty nifty, huh? Okay, anyway, these two guys, Matthias Schleiden and Schwann, are responsible for living cells. Rudolf Virchow, either way, hypothesized that cells divide from new cells to form new cells. They come from already existing cells. Sounds pretty familiar. These guys are responsible for the cell theory, which are the three things we talked about. All organisms are made up of one or more cells. The cells is a basic unit of organization, an organism, and all cells come from cells. We've already learned this. So you might want to be familiar with those guys. I wouldn't spend too much time memorizing them, but you do need to know the cell theory. Again, here's a picture of differentiated cells. And then we're going to talk about how those cells go from cells to living things. Living things have different levels of structure. So you have an animal cell and a plant cell. They're going to go along the same kind of course of growth. You have a cell that billions of cells make tissues, and different tissues make organs, and different organs make organ systems, and different organ systems make organisms. Same is true for plants. Plant cells, billions of plant cells, make up tissues, and many tissues make up organs, and many organs make up an organ system, and many organ systems make up an organism. So we go from simplest to most complex for levels of organization. Oops, you will need to know that it goes from cell to tissue to organ system to organism. So one cell then makes billions of cells, and those billions of cells make tissues, and those tissues make multiple tissues, thousands of tissues, into organs, and many organs together make an organ system, and many systems make organisms, which is a living thing. So again, cell, tissue, organ, system, organism. That is on the test. You will need to know that. Here's another picture showing you cells are the basic unit of life. Cells are in the smallest unit of living organisms. Cells form tissues when they work together. Tissues form organs when they work together. Organs form systems when they work together. And systems form an organism when they work together. So you're looking at all those, the basic unit of life, a cell, working together with billions of other cells to make tissues, and those tissues work together to make organs, and organs work together to make an organ system. You need to remember that pattern. So again, this is the same thing, telling you from cell to organism. Many celled organisms depend on other cells, meaning that similar types of cells, such as cardiac muscle, part of your heart, group together to form a tissue. They work together to perform one job. Tissues are organized into organs, which make up more than one type of tissue that works together. Your heart, for example, is made up of cardiac muscle, nerve tissues, and blood tissues, so on and so forth. The cardiac muscle tissue contracts, makes the heart pump. Nerve tissue brings messages that tell the heart how fast to beat. Blood tissue carries from the heart to other organs to the body. So all of these tissues work together. So all those together make an organ system. A system of many organs, remember these are the many parts together working as an organ system, work together. Your digestive tract your mouth, your esophagus, your stomach, your small intestines, your large intestines, and so forth, are a system working together. And so that shows you from cell to organism. Again, you have cell to tissue to organ to system to organism. The organism is the living entire being of whatever you're looking at, whether it be animal or plant. Okay. Okay, and that's multicellular organisms, right? Okay, that's it. We should be ready for the test. That's not much. Remember, this is not all that you need to know. You need to go back through your notes. You need to look at the videos we've talked about, the ones I've shown you. Everything should have been covered in the PowerPoints that I've videoed for you. And do the study guide example, the quizzes, and good luck on Friday.